Isaac marrying zombie love letter. Blank bodies. Heidi.
Where's warm?
Yes.
I had a fancy life as a popular author. Then I lost some of it and threw the rest away, and now I live alone in a shed in the wilderness. Here's my typical day, winter edition. I wake up whenever the sun does. My cat Bob is a cuddle fiend, but he always seems to know when it's time to start the day. I get dressed in bed because it's cold, maybe a little too cold. My radiant heater's not quite up for these negative temperatures. Time to cozy up to the simulated fireplace. Ah, simulated bliss. Now for my morning shower in the sink. Oops, the pipes froze. It's my first winter since I put in plumbing, and it seems the shed's thin walls aren't quite up for these negative temperatures. No problem, I'll just throw on some extra insulation and build a windshield. Home improvement, wasteland style. Another settlement needs your help. And we're back. Now that coffee has entered the equation, it's time for a little trip to the Outer Edge Outpost outhouse. Click on the lights and get the heat lamp running for a reasonably cozy philosophy summit. Warm seat cover helps prevent frost ass. My glorious pump sink is of course frozen. Poo hands till spring. This seems like a good moment to mention that I did not clean my home for this video. I did not organize my shelves and arrange it all nicely to present a beautiful little life. I live in squalor. My kitchen is unsanitary. I eat off dirty dishes. I wear the same clothes all week to save trips to the laundromat in town. I bathe in the sink, and sometimes I even pee in it. I am a goblin. Why? Because it doesn't matter. Because I live alone in a shed and I never have visitors. If a man rots in the wilderness but no one is there to smell him, does he really stink? I have not yet reached the aesthetic bliss phase of my wilderness life. That may come when I get an actual house to live in, but for now, I'm entirely focused on one thing: making stuff. I'm working on a commissioned screenplay. I'm designing the narrative and writing the script for a major video game. I can't talk about either of these yet, but they're big projects, hopefully big enough to buy me a house of some kind. I wish I were doing my own thing, writing my next novel in uninterrupted solitude, but all of this is a means to an end, securing a little foundation on which to build the life I want. And in my leisure time, as a treat, I make these videos. I dive into writing as soon after waking as possible, before looking at my phone or checking my email, before receiving any input from the real world at all. The more directly I can jump from dreams to story, the more freely the writing flows. I don't eat breakfast yet. I savor the burn of coffee on my empty stomach, feeling it rush through my hungry veins and lighting up my neurons as story explodes from my fingertips. I fucking love my mornings. But when I can't take it anymore, I pause for breakfast. Sometimes it's really good oatmeal fortified with nuts and protein powder and all the fixins. Sometimes it's hash browns and eggs. Ideally, I make a lot of it and I pack it away for the next few days. For a man on a mission, meal prep is life. I have this sad collegiate mini fridge in my living area, but for long-term storage, I have this big old beast in the garage. Only problem with having a fridge in an unheated space in negative temperatures is that the fridge becomes a freezer and everything just explodes. I put this little heat tape in there to keep things just above the freeze line. Yes, I am heating my refrigerator. Life in a shed can be counterintuitive. Quick note about tiny houses. This isn't one. I designed it to be a tool and storage shed with a little extra for a guest room. Then I accidentally ended up living in it. The living area is 130 square feet, roughly half the average tiny house. And even tiny houses call for a minimalist lifestyle. A laptop, a couple books, and your crochet needles. You're not supposed to have a whole construction workshop and a music and video production studio. I do a lot of things. I do way too many things for this space. I'm 6'3" and I bump into something every time I turn around. I'm constantly resisting claustrophobia panic attacks. So when I talk about getting a real house, it's not about status or luxury. I just want to be able to walk past my desk without using my chair as a revolving door. By the way, this is Bob, Bobo, Boberto, Turdling, Turdmaster, etc. I let him go outside during daylight hours because the danger where I live is minimal, and as the only cat for miles around, he is no threat to the ecosystem. It's a calculated risk that I choose to take so he can have a full life as a wild beast during his brief time on Earth. I am not interested in your opinions about this choice. Thanks. So, Bob hates winter. He is a baby about the cold, and once it gets just a little uncomfy outside, he spends his days staring out the window like a prisoner in the tower while giving me mournful meows, as if to say, "Why, Father? Why have you done this to the world? Make it warm again, cruel God." Sometimes I feel proud of myself that he gets cabin fever before I do. I'll be working away on my projects, only partially unhinged, while Bob zoomies around the shed chasing invisible mice with his ears back and madness in his eyes. Looks like I win the Sanity Olympics. But when things get really bad, sometimes I'll give him a nudge toward healthy habits. Come on, Bob, I'm taking you to your pest hunting playground.
Go get him. Go get him.
Go forth, destroyer. Wreak havoc on the underthings. Full transparency, I too get the zoomies. After a few hours of sitting at my computer, prying at the 4D puzzle of my story, I jump out of my chair with the same madness in my eyes. If I could put my ears back, I would. I gear up for that -30 wind chill, and I go tromping out into the frozen wastes.
Where's warm?
Ooh. My property is 20 acres, but I'm surrounded by vast expanses of public land, so my roaming range is nearly limitless. To the west, I have these endless rolling plains punctuated by glacial deposits, which I use as little way stations when I need to lean against a boulder and soak in the silence for a while. To the east, I have these cliffs overlooking what feels like the outer edge of reality, hence the name of this channel. I take walks at least once every day, sometimes every hour, depending on how often I hit a wall in my writing. The worse the writing goes, the more fitness I get. In addition to miles of walking trails, the Outer Edge Outpost boasts other luxurious amenities, such as a private gym. Break a sweat that will freeze on your face while enjoying a panoramic view of the world beyond the outpost's confines. Fine cuisine, arts and culture, beautiful women. Gaze wistfully toward the things you left behind. No one will ever see the muscles you're building, but at least you won't atrophy and die. I do actually see humans sometimes. I have a few neighbors within shouting distance, and they have me over for dinner once in a while. An old friend from the city moved to a nearby town, so I get to remember a softer life whenever I visit her, and also take a real shower. And every couple weeks, I drive the 8 miles of winding dirt road down to the highway and make the hour-long trip to resupply at the Walton family's Sundry Goods Mercantile, where I have a part-time job operating the self-checkout machines. My pay is whatever I get away with. So I do see people here and there, but mostly my social life is non-human. In the winter, the scene gets pretty dead. There's this guy, of course, a few birds, the occasional herd of dinosaurs, and a nomadic tribe with which I've been establishing trade. They receive apple, I receive gazing upon their majesty. Capitalism works. At the end of my day, with my brain fully depleted and unable to generate thoughts, I settle in. I eat one of 2 dinners, Mary and stew or Mary and bowl. I stream a movie or play a game or chat with my Patreon gang. Yes, I have internet. I drink from a well and shit in a hole, but I have a fleet of Starlink satellites at my command whenever I need to plunge into that neon ocean of noise. As long as I'm trying to earn my living making art, I'll never be able to fully unplug, and I'm not even convinced that I'd want to. Patreon chats and YouTube comments are no substitute for real human community, but they're not nothing. I have been finding it immensely rewarding to share my strange life with you in this way. sitting here in my outhouse. This winter has been very dark and very cold, and last winter was much worse. If I were truly alone out here, truly unplugged, I would probably be crazier than Bob. So I enjoy my little digital campfires. Then I climb into bed and read for a while, easing myself out of the day's intensity and back into the silence. Bob promptly takes his place, snuggled up in my armpit. I turn out the lights and sink into a warm wave of gratitude that it's all finally over, but also counterintuitively that there's more on the way tomorrow. All squalor aside, it's not a bad life.